telling the story of Sang Nila Utama and the lion. Somewhere during the 13th or 14th century, in the court of Palembang in modern Indonesia, there lived a prince named Sang Nila Utama, who is also known as Sri Tribhuwana. It was a time of peace and a time of joy. The prince spent his days merrymaking and hunting in the wild. Bored and tired of his usual routine, he decided to set sail for nearby islands in search for new adventures. One day, during a hunting expedition, he saw a distant island. After told that it was the island of Temasek, he made plans to sail for the island. Along the way, he encountered a great storm, which threatened to destroy his ships. The ship's captain ordered all heavy cargo to be thrown overboard, in hopes that a lighter vessel would help stabilize the ship. It was to no avail, and the ship appeared doomed to a watery grave. In desperation, the ship's captain begged Sang Nila Utama to throw overboard his heavy gold bejeweled crown, in hopes that it would stabilize the ship. It seemed to work, and indeed, the ships were able to survive the storm. The young prince eventually set foot on the island of Temasek, and he was pleased. The beach was beautiful and wide. There were many birds and plants, and colorful and bright flowers of all kinds. Suddenly, he saw a creature in the jungle, an animal that he and his party had never seen before. It was larger than a male deer, had a black head, a reddish body, and a white chest. It was swift and fierce. It was simply magnificent. After being told that what he had just seen is a lion, he decided to name the island Singapura, or Lion City, after the magnificent animal that he had just seen, and declared himself the ruler. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nigel Zakrishi and I'm from St. Gabriel Secondary School. Today, I would like to share with you a story about Maria Hertog and the importance of why Singapore needs cohesion, harmony, and unity. Now I'm going to start the story of Maria Hertog. In the early 1940s, Maria Hertog was born to Dutch Eurasian parents in Java. During the war, Maria's father got arrested by the Japanese. Maria's mother gave her to an Indonesian Muslim woman named Amina to be raised. Amina then gave Maria a Muslim name, Najat. In 1947, Amina moved to Terengganu with Maria. After the war, the Hertogs learned about the whereabouts of Maria and launched a legal battle for their daughter's custody. The custody battle attracted intense media attention worldwide. Photographs of a Muslim girl in a Catholic convent affected religious sensitivities and whipped up emotions. In 1950, the judge dismissed Amina's appeal for the custody of Maria, and custody was given to Adeline Hanser, her biological mother. Upon hearing this, huge crowds outside the court rioted, convinced that the justice system, courts, and colonial laws were prejudiced against Muslims. For 3 days, mobs of Malay and Indian Muslim rioters attacked any European or Eurasian in sight. They set up barricades along major roads, set cars and houses on fire, and took control of the districts within the vicinity of the Sultan's Mosque, North Bridge Road, and Jalan Besar. Rioting was only stopped after 2 troops of police were called in, supported by several Malays within the troops. Even so, scattered attacks continued over 2 days. A 24-hour curfew had to be imposed before the police, British, and Malay troops regained control of the situation. Altogether, 9 people were killed and 173 people injured during the riots. The riots highlighted the insensitive way the media handled religious and racial issues in Singapore. From then on, as a result of this historical event, the government of Singapore, upon independence in 1965, passed a law against racial discrimination. It became an offense to incite racial and religious discrimination in Singapore. The local media exercised greater discipline in the coverage of sensitive issues. From then on, working together with races and religions took top priority in forming government policies. It helped Singapore to build a tolerant society with racial and religious harmony. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Demi and I'm from Zhonghua Secondary. My story is on honesty. A successful businessman who had been the CEO of the company Orange was growing old, and he knew that it was time to choose a successor that he could trust to take over his business. However, instead of choosing one of his children, he decided to do something different. He called all the young executives in his company together into the boardroom. "It is time for me to step down and choose the next CEO," he said. "Seeing that I have trained you all for quite a period of time, I have decided to choose one of you to inherit the company and take care of it in my place." The young executives were shocked. "Director, how are we to manage this company? It is too big a task for us," they protested. The old CEO held up his hand for silence. "I have already made up my mind," he continued. "Frankie, Jim, Aiden, Aaron, and Carson, you 5 will be the candidates for the next CEO." The old boss told the 5 young men, "I am going to give each one of you a seed today, and it is a very special seed. I want you to plant the seed, water it, and come back here 1 year from today with what you have grown from the seed. I will then judge the plants that you bring, and the one I choose will be the next CEO." The 5 young men held the seed tightly in their fists and firmly promised the old boss that they would do their best. With that, they left the boardroom. Once the door was closed, the old boss leaned back onto his chair and began laughing heartily. "Oh, they will have the time of their lives trying to grow something out of that seed," he smirked. All the young executives gathered together and discussed what they would do to grow their seed. "I'll feed my plant with eggshells so it will be able to grow strong and tall. That way, I'll definitely win," boasted Frankie. "Only that," Aiden scoffed. "I'll destroy any plant pest that dares to attack my plant and hinder its growth," he smirked. "I'll water my plant regularly and even feed it fertilizer," exclaimed Jim. "I heard that plants grow well listening to music. I'll play some of my classic Beethoven pieces for it to enjoy," Carson bragged. Only Aaron kept quiet throughout the whole discussion. He went home and excitedly told his wife the story. She helped him get a pot, soil, and compost, and he planted the seed. Every day he would water it and watch to see if it had grown. After about 3 weeks, some of the executives began to talk about how their plants had beginning to grow. Aaron kept checking his seed, but nothing ever grew. He was feeling desperate. He had tried everything: fertilizer, insecticide, eggshells, rotten banana skins, and even playing some of the funky Korean music, but none of that seemed to be working. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months went by, still nothing. By now, others were talking about how beautiful their plants had grown into, but Aaron still did not have a plant, and he felt like a failure. "My plant is now 5 feet tall, and flowers are even starting to bloom. They are a very nice pink color. I just knew that the eggshells would do the trick," Frankie exclaimed. "My plant is 4.5 feet tall now, and the flowers have already bloomed. The flowers are a nice orange color. Told you music was the best for plants to grow," Carson crowed. "Oh yeah? My plant is 5.5 feet tall. I can tell that it's a hibiscus with its lovely yellow color. Who knew that just some water and fertilizer at regular intervals would have done the trick?" Jim bragged. Aaron just hung his head in shame. His seed had not even germinated. Very soon, 10 months went by, and there was still nothing in Aaron's pot. He knew he had killed his seed. Everyone else had tall flowering plants, but he had nothing. Aaron didn't say anything to his colleagues, however. He just kept watering and fertilizing the soil, desperately wishing that the seed would just miraculously grow. 1 year finally went by, and all the young executives of the company were to bring their plants to the CEO for inspection. Aaron told his wife that he would have to take his empty pot into the boardroom. His wife agreed, and although Aaron knew that it was going to be the most embarrassing moment of his life, he knew he was doing the right thing. The next day, sick to the stomach and dreading what would happen, Aaron took his empty pot to the boardroom. When Aaron arrived, he was amazed at the variety of plants grown by the other executives. They were beautiful, in all shapes and sizes. However, to his surprise, Aaron discovered that Aiden was also holding an empty pot. Aaron put his empty pot on the floor and went to talk to Aiden. "Your seed didn't grow too? I thought it was just me." Aaron sighed in relief. "Yeah, I've tried everything, and it just cannot seem to grow." I think I killed the seed, Aiden sighed. Frankie looked at them and smiled and smirked proudly before turning back his attention to his plant. Jim and Carson shot both of them sympathetic looks. When the old CEO arrived, he surveyed the room and greeted his young executives. Frankie, Carson, and Jim proudly placed their pots in front for the old CEO to admire. Aaron and Aiden just hid in the back, holding their old empty pots tightly. My, what great plants and flowers you have grown, praised the old CEO. Today, one of you will be appointed the next CEO. All of a sudden, the old CEO spotted Aaron and Aiden at the back of the room with their empty pots. He ordered the secretary to bring them to the front. Aaron was terrified. He whispered to Aiden, "The boss knows that we have not been able to grow the plants. Maybe he will have us fired." When Aaron and Aiden got to the front, the old CEO asked them what had happened to their seeds. Aaron told him that their seeds just could not seem to grow. The old CEO asked everyone to sit down except Aaron and Aiden. He looked at Aaron, and Aaron closed his eyes. This is it. This is the end of me, he thought to himself. The old CEO then announced to the young executives, "The next chief executive is Aaron." Aaron couldn't believe it. He couldn't even grow his seed. How could he be the new CEO? Aiden congratulated him heartily by slapping him on the back. Frankie, Jim, and Carson opened their mouths to protest, but the CEO held up his hand and continued. "However, due to the outstanding results I have seen today, Aiden will be the new Chief Financial Officer and he will get 10% of the shares in the company." Aiden was also heartily congratulated by Aaron. The CEO said, "1 year ago, I gave everyone in this room a seed. I told you to take the seed, plant it, water it, and bring it back to me today. However, the seeds that I gave you were boiled dead seeds, so it would have not been possible for them to grow. All of you, except Aaron and Aiden, have brought me trees and plants and flowers. How could a boiled seed germinate or even bloom? The truth is that when you found the seeds would not grow, you substituted the seed I gave you for another one. Aaron and Aiden were the only ones with the courage and honesty to bring me a pot with my seed in it. Therefore, they will be rightfully rewarded. Thank you."
Good afternoon, my name is Dania from Bartley Secondary School, and the title of my story is "I Knew You Would Come." Here it goes. There were two childhood buddies who went through school and college and even joined the army together when the Japanese invaded Singapore. War broke out in 1942, and they were fighting in the same Singapore volunteer unit. One night, they were out and ambushed near Woodlands. Bullets were flying all over, and out of the darkness came a voice. "Alim, please help me." Alim immediately recognized the voice of his childhood buddy, Hussein. He asked the British captain if he could go. The captain said, "No, I can't let you go. I'm already short-handed and I can't afford to lose any one more person. Besides, the way Hussein sounds, he's not going to make it." Alim kept quiet. Again the voice came, "Alim, please help me." Alim sat quietly because the captain had refused earlier. Again and again the voice came. Alim couldn't contain himself any longer and told the captain, "Captain, this is my childhood buddy. I have to go and help." The captain reluctantly let him go. Alim crawled through the darkness and dragged Hussein back into the trench. They found that Hussein was dead. Now, the captain got angry and shouted at Alim, "Didn't I tell you that he was not going to make it? He is dead, and you could have been killed, and I could have lost a man. Going to get him was a big mistake." Alim replied, "Captain, I did the right thing. When I reached Hussein, he was still alive, and his last words were, 'Lim, I knew you would came.'" Good relationships form and hard to find once they develop should be nurtured. As Singaporeans, we are often told, "Live your dream," but you cannot live your dream at the expense of others. Sometimes we need to make personal sacrifices for our family, friends, and those who we care about and depend on us. Thank you.
My name is Sabrina Chitse, and I am from Cedar Girls Secondary School. Today, I'll be telling you the legend of Bukit Merah, or Red Hill as we know it today. A long, long time ago, the seas of Singapura was inhabited by many dangerous and intimidating saltfish that attacked the frightened villagers living by the sea. The king, Raja Petika Sri Maharaja, tried several methods to solve this problem, but to no avail. An intelligent little boy saw what was happening and suggested that the king could make a trap for the swordfish along the beach. The trap is no other but soft banana tree trunks. At first, everyone in the village laughed and made fun of the little boy, saying that his idea would never work. Many others also thought that it was impossible that the banana tree trunks would actually save the day. King Raja, along with his generals, also thought that it was crystal clear and obvious that this solution would never happen. However, he decided to give it a try. So, King Raja set his soldiers to cut down all the banana trees nearby and built a barrier along the beach. When it was high tide again, the swordfish swam up to the beach. But to their astonishment, instead of being able to attack the villagers, the swordfish found their long, sharp noses stuck onto the banana tree trunks. The little boy's plan had succeeded, and the shameful villagers gratefully thanked the little boy for saving their dear lives. The jealous King Raja grew worried that the boy would grow up and take away his throne. Therefore, he plotted to kill the boy. One night, he sent a few soldiers to murder the boy who lived on top of a hill. As they marched up the hill, they met a mysterious old lady who somehow discovered the plan. She soon started chanting some magical words in a voice that sounded like a croak. And the most amazing and shocking thing happened. Deep red blood started to flow down the hill in a rush, causing the soldiers to flee as fast as their legs could take them. The blood eventually caused the soil to turn red, and the hill soon became in the shade of red too. That was how Bukit Merah, or Red Hill, got its name. Thank you.
Demi and Jinjo. It's called Demi and Jinjo, Silent N. Okay, I shall start with my story. It's a folktale on friendship. Two boys were born on the very same day in an African tribe, and they grew up to be firm friends. Demi was the rich one, Jinjo was poor. They grew so alike that nobody could tell them from one another. After spending his youth in usual tribal pursuits, hunting hares, cutting grass, hunting mice and rats, and later bigger game, Demi had a yearning to see the world outside of it. It is only natural that he asked his poor friend Jinjo to follow him along. When they reached the next village, Demi was so dazzled by a beauty of a most loveliest girl named Malama, and that he immediately asked him to marry him, adding, "I would be prepared to give 100 cattle for such loveliness." "My father is chief of the village," she replied, "and his wish is that I should marry a man capable of doing superhuman things. He sets a task for my suitors, such a difficult one that I am afraid that I will never be married." To the chief, the young man said, "Sir, I wish to marry your daughter, surely the most beautiful woman in Africa. Tell me what to do and it shall be done. Where others have failed, I will succeed because my love for your daughter is boundless." But the young man became despondent when the chief told him that what his task would be. Guarded by an old woman, he would have to spend 6 days and 6 nights in a hut without any food, water to sustain him. And if he did not succeed, if he cried for food and water before the time was up, he would be killed. So consumed with love was he that he accepted the conditions. They put him in a prison-like hut that has no windows. and in the long narrow doorway, the old woman slept on a mat like a human watchdog. Demi put his bed mat against the wall that faced the streets. So the first long day crawled slowly from sunrise to sunset. When the night was dark and the villagers asleep, Demi's prearranged plan came into operation. After wetting the floor, Jinjo made a hole in it with a knife. Through this hole, he slowly put a hollow reed, dipping at its end into the calabash without of water. On the other side, Demi was able to drink the sweet life-giving liquid without rising from his mat. And when the calabash was drained, Jinjo removed the reed, plastered the wall with mud, and slowly stole off into the darkness. Every night he did this, while the old woman became more and more suspicious, for no previous pursuer had lasted more than 3 days before crying for food and water. On the 5th night, he commanded Demi to sleep against the other wall of the hut, while she lay on his bed mat. For the first time in his life, the young man knew fear. While the village was sleeping and bullfrogs crowed at the river, the old woman heard a soft scraping noise, and after a few minutes, a hollow reed poked through and she drank the water from Jinjo's calabash. In triumph, she shouted, "So that's how you sustain yourself these past 5 days, by cheating! The chief will hear of this in the morning. My own calabash filled with water will be the evidence that will end your life." Jinjo heard this as he withdrew the reed with trembling fingers. He also heard his friend weeping in sorrow, and he knew a mingling of sadness and fear. Stealing back into the darkness, he wondered how could he help his friend, who was him as a brother. Suddenly, a voice came squeaking out of the darkness. Young man, you are worried. Can I be of any assistance?" Jinjo looked hard in all directions but couldn't see anyone. "Look down," squeaked the voice. "I'm Daviga, the rat. Tell me your problem and I will find a solution." When Jinjo told his tale, Daviga said, "Leave it to me. You will sleep well tonight. Your friend is no longer in danger." And he was gone, rustling through the dry grass. Reaching the old woman's hut, Daviga got a pole through the wall, and while the old woman went on sleeping, a horrible leer of triumph creasing her face. He pushed the calabash through the hole where his friends, the white ants, stood waiting in rows, drawing like soldiers on a parade ground. When they had finished eating the calabash, not even a single piece of chip remained. The sun came up, and then the old woman found that she has no evidence. And as nobody believed her fantastic story, Demi was able to marry Malama and take her back to his village. There, his father built a house for them, a house for poor Jinjo. To Demi and Jinjo, he gave magic knife made by giants in the far-off mountains, and so alike that nobody could tell the difference between them. One day you will need the magic of this knife. After a few months, Jinjo, the poor one, announced that he has a desire to travel to a faraway village to find a wife for himself, so that he could be as radiantly happy as Malama and Demi. But first, he planted a silk cotton tree and said that he would leave it when it grew as high as his knees. When the tree had grown and he was about to set off in his travels, he said to Demi, "See how it flowers. This cotton seed of mine that I planted in a hole cut by a magic knife given by your father. If this leaf become withered and dry, it will be a sign that either I'm dead or in most desperate trouble. Goodbye." May your happiness grow during my absence. For the days he traveled across the plains, he could see in a distance a village. Approaching, he heard sounds of weeping and wailing, a vast sad sound coming from the throat of hundreds of people. Just ahead of him, he could see a lovely girl in the dry riverbed. She was as beautiful as Malama, and he was in love with her before even coming close to ask her what causing the misery in the village. The river god is cruel and demanding. The river only flows when a young woman sacrifices herself. One by one, all the young maidens have been devoured by the river god. And now it's my turn. I, Malama, the daughter of the chief, for I am the last ones left. And my people will die without water that only my sacrifice will bring them. So go away, leave me, before the river god comes at sunset to devour me. But Jinjo refused to go. For what man will leave the woman he loved when she is in danger? All day he sat with her, telling her of his love for her, and how would he take her back to his village as his wife after he dealt with the cruel river god. As the sun sank, there was a rumbling in the sand near them, and out of earth came the biggest snake Jinjo has ever seen. It was as thick as a mighty bilbao tree, and the young man was filled with fear, but he dashed forward with a whip in his magic knife, cut off the monster's head. Water came gushing out of the huge headless snake, and as it even tried to slither back into his hole, Jinjo was able to cut it into pieces, and out of each pieces the water flowed increasingly. Laughing with fear and relief, Jinjo and Kalama ran out of the riverbed as it was filled with life-giving water until the river was flowing through the village and the thirsty villagers. Of course, Kalama and Jinjo immediately married, but because she had, according to tribal law, already been sacrificed to the river gods, because they were no longer really living, they had to build their hut some distance away from the village. But this did not worry them, as they were able to entertain their friends, and many grateful villagers came past the time of the day with them. A few weeks after the marriage, there was an astonishing happening. Every piece of meat in the village, chops, steaks, and even sausage sizzling in the pan, suddenly jumped up and ran towards the distant hill. The young man could not believe his eyes. Never before had he seen meat actually running. This happened quite often, Kalama explained to him. The meat runs to the distant hill, it swallows the meat, and it will do the same, is said. To anyone who goes near the mighty rock and his food, this has never happened, for all of us are afraid of the rock and never go close enough to be engulfed. A few days later, Jinjo went hunting with 10 young men. Seeing an antelope, they gave chase, and in their excitement, keeping running even when the animal passed the dreaded rock, which opened its stony mouth wide and swallowed all of them. At this very moment, many miles away, Demi happened to be standing at a cotton seed tree planted by Jinjo and now as high as his chest. Even as he looked, the leaf withered and dried up immediately. He knew that his friend was either dead or in great danger. He set out immediately. At this 3 days later, he reached the hut where Malama and Jinjo lived. He looked so much alike Jinjo that Kalama thought his husband has returned from the hunt. 3 days you have been gone, she cried. You must have hunted many animals for the pots of villagers. Yes, he replied, pretending to be Jinjo, so that she would not be alarmed. It was a splendid hunt, and we were very successful. but I must go away immediately again, for a huge herd of buffaloes is moving across the plains, and we need to get all the meat we can before the winter comes on. And in this spite of pleading, he ran to the village and spoke to the chief, who said sadly to him, "Of course, we haven't told Malama what happened, but 10 men and Jinjo has disappeared. They haven't been seen for 3 days, and it was believed that they were swallowed up by the rock on the sacred hill." "Jinjo is my dearest friend," said Demi. "I must rescue him. Let some young man guide me to this abdominal rock, and I shall see what I can do." They tried to dissuade him, but he was persistent. 10 young hunters led him to the rock. "There it is," they said. "We admire your bravery, but we ourselves are too afraid to get close to it." Demi stood up to the rock, and watchers saw it bending over to swallow him. But he stabbed it with his magic knife, and the watchers cheered as the rock broke into 2 halves. 10 lost hunters and Jinjo marched out singing loudly, happy to be back with their friends in the sunlight again. "Which one is my husband?" said Kalama, as the 2 young men, looking exactly, stood before her. "I'm your husband," said Jinjo. "This is my dearest friend Demi, which saved us from these troubles." And he told her of their relationship and adventures together, and how Demi had came to help him when the cottonseed leaf had withered and dried up. "Such likeness," she said, "such friendship and devotion. How truly wonderful it is, and how proud I am of both of you." They went back home with Demi, built a house near him, and 2 young men and Kalama and Malama remained as dear friends for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
I am Natalie, and I'm from Cedar Girls Secondary School. Today, I'll be telling you the legend of Bukit Panjang. Long after the reign of Nila Utam, the seas of Singapore were invaded by souls of swordfishers. These large fishes multiplied rapidly and soon became a menace to the Maharaja. He was worried about the local population. The people of the island no longer dared to venture near the seas, as each day there would always be someone killed by the swordfishers. Talk spread among the people that this was an evil omen of the sign of the things to come. Locals began to believe that the kingdom had somehow incurred the wrath of the gods, and they were now being punished for it. The talk soon reached the ears of the king, Paduka Siri, who was worried that he would be blamed for these events. Fearful of the threat to his rule and the possibility of rebellion by his subjects, the king decided to rid the seas of the swordfishers. On the appointed day, the king had his soldiers armed and ready on the beaches, but the menace of the swordfish was the greatest. The soldiers went into the water and waited for the fish to come in with the tide. However, despite being well armed, the king's men were no match for the swordfishers, which impaled themselves on them. One after another, the king's men fell, seriously injured or killed. The cries could be heard from far away. Soon, the sea was awash with the blood of the king's army. To avoid further slaughter, the king was forced to withdraw his men. But he also noticed a young lad taking special interest in the events and laughing at the difficult before him. When brought before him, the lad said, "Majesty, I was just thinking that it would be better to form a barrier using banana tree trunks instead of the soldiers to fight the swordfishers. There will be less bloodshed that way." The king was struck by the ingenuity and simplicity of the idea and immediately adopted it. Every banana tree on the island was felled in the effort. Soon, the people had erected a great wall of banana tree trunks along the beach. When the tide came in again, the imminent swordfish attack came. However, this time, the swordfish had their long, sharp points stuck into the tree trunks and were not able to free themselves. The islanders were thus able to kill the swordfishes without doing any harm to themselves. The sea was red with the blood of the swordfishes, but the scourge was finally over. Everyone on the island celebrated the victory, and the king rewarded the boy for his idea. But his ministers were unhappy and jealous. One of them whispered into the king's ear, "Even as a boy, he is already so clever. Imagine what will happen when he grows up. Why, he might even usurp your throne." Believing the slander, the king immediately ordered the boy to be executed. One version of the legend has it that the boy was thrown into the sea near one of the islands south of Singapore. It is said that on certain nights, that his anguished cries could still be heard from afar. Thank you for your kind attention.